2001 330 Ci Hellrot, so bright red. Got the car for $2,000. Had some various issues, so most of what I've been doing so far has just been taking care of stuff. Probably the main thing just ate at me because I want to street drive the car. The keys were it was just a shit show. Ignition tumbler was just like jacked, and as I've learned on these cars, it's like a whole cylinder. There's like a bobby pin trick to get the whole thing out. So fought with that, but it was broken, so it didn't really work the way that it was supposed to, and I ended up like, worst thing ever when you're working on something is just like freaking out, and then like all of a sudden it popped out. So that was crazy. But so the ignition tumbler was bad, the driver's door tumbler was bad, the trunk was fine, trunk lock was fine. The key though was the only key that was cut for the car was mangled and broken and nasty. But the dude that had it before me just took the chip out and put it into a blank, uncut, like Amazon BMW key. So, because the ignition tumbler was messed up, you could just take the blank key, stick it in like a screwdriver. I started with a screwdriver, kind of holding the key in the right place and using a screwdriver. But so like I said, I wanted to screwdrive the car, so I wanted to find a solution to that, but it was kind of just back and forth figuring stuff out. I need to do a start button, but then with the EWS and DME and like all of the security on the car, I had to figure out a solution. So found a guy in Golden, like in another town, like an hour and a half away, that had the DMEs with EWS delete and tunes and some stuff going on. So the car actually, another issue was the rear O2 sensors are terrible. Like they're soaked in oil, they're bad. So killed a couple birds with one stone. I bought a DME from him that was EWS deleted and had some tune-ups to it. So kind of fixed some things there. But car runs a lot better now that it's not looking at the rear O2 sensors. But with that, I was able to go on eBay, spend like $120 and bought a lock set that came with an EWS. So it was 2 keys, ignition, door lock, trunk, but it was from an M3. And this is a 330 coupe, so I figured it'd be fine. But when I got it here, first thing I thought was the trunk would be the easiest. Well, the housing, like the ignition or the lock cylinder is the same, but the actual housing that it sits in, I don't know. I'll have to look at my buddy Dan's E46 M3 and see if the trunks are different or something. But it wasn't gonna go on. So I was like, okay, I'll just set that on the bench and go to the door lock. Door lock was straightforward. I popped the black painted cover off, popped the red one from this car on, shoved it in, tightened the bolts up, bam, doors lock, unlock, do all the stuff they're supposed to do. And like I said, I moved to the ignition. I don't entirely know. There's a couple times where parts just like came out, which is cool because then I kind of had them in my hands. When I had the new used ignition tumbler, I was able to fashion a tool with it in my hands for getting it out the way you're supposed to. A bunch of videos that you can find on how to do that if you haven't done it. But got everything out, cleaned everything up, looked at it, figured out how it works, how it's supposed to go together, and was able to get it all stabbed in. So now ignition key in the ignition cylinder, twist it, all the positions, swapped out the EWSs so that the EWS saw the signal from the key that it knew. Car starts, both keys work. Okay, cool. So doors work, ignition works. So then I started looking at the trunk lock, and I found that you could actually like take the housings apart. And so I was able to Frankenstein with pieces from this car and pieces from the used stuff that I got off eBay, a piece that worked. So now all the keys work, the trunk works the way it's supposed to. Like I can lock the trunk manually, I can manually open it. Coming from a Nissan background, having the battery in the trunk was a bit of like concerning to me. I want to make sure I can get to it if if the car's parked somewhere where the nose is in and I can't get jumper cables to the lugs in the engine bay. So I wanted to make sure that I could get to that. So it was a big deal for me to do keys. So that was probably the biggest thing. Cars got like Amazon, eBay, super sketchy coilovers on the front, super short coil springs on the rear with stock shocks, so they fall out anytime it comes unweighted. So I bought H&R Cup Kit, so it's gonna have fresh springs, fresh shocks all around. Waiting right now for some OEM pieces as far as like spring insulators and mounts and pieces like that. So don't have that going yet, but shortly after I got it, kind of went after the drivability issues. So it was running lean, having some misfires, several codes. So coming from a Nissan background, built several S13s throughout my adult years and whatnot. I started digging in, and it was like the checklist of E46 problems. First thing I did is I pulled intake boots out, lower intake boot torn to shit, replaced that, then sprayed some brake clean or car clean or whatever on the disavow when it was running, and flared up, so pulled the disavow out. Well, this is the one that has the poured in O-ring, non-serviceable. So I used my super awesome skills and found out that there's some, like, I think it's like 91 and 94 Ford Probe thermostat O-ring, fits really well. Got that dude checked off, that fixed that. But then I started checking the vacuum hoses were just like terrible. Every one I touched just crumbled. So went through and replaced all the vacuum hoses that I could find, and all the known issues, pulled the stuff off the back of the intake manifold. So I got that. It's running, still has some issues that I think I'm gonna have to go a bit further. There's some oil leaks and some things here and there that I think ultimately what I'm gonna do is probably find another M54 and go through. I'm not gonna open it necessarily, but just go through and like fully freshen front crank, rear crank, valve cover, oil pan, pull the oil pan off, and do the tune. And the DME has 7,000 rev limit. Don't need to like rev it that much, but knowing that this car is gonna have track time, there may be some spots where I'll use those revs. But with the known oil pump issues, probably would do, like I said, if I get a fresh or another M54 and I'm going through it and I got the oil pan off, do an oil pan baffle, upgraded oil pump. I got the car thinking I was gonna go a spec E46 racing, but we're in Colorado, and I'm finding out that there's like a handful of cars, if that really, in the area that are true spec E46 cars. So there's not really a lot of support for it. Plenty of racing, NASA, WRL, SCCA stuff. So plenty of opportunities to race the car and kind of progress up through from having a street car. But as I've driven it a few times, handful of times here and there, just kind of do a little bit of work, see if it, get all the check engine lights cleared and go drive it. You got to drive it a couple times for it to get through its trips and checks and everything, and make sure you know what you did, took care of the problem. Or in this car, you find the next problem. Yeah, so just get a new motor or another motor, freshen it up, fully clean everything, clean the engine bay. There's, like I said, there's like power steering fluid leaks. They had like Teflon tape. Previous owner had like Teflon tape on the oil filter housing cap, and I was like, why? Like, there's an O-ring that you're supposed to replace every time, but I guess they just didn't. I don't know. It's got some like stupid red spray paint on the valve cover, which I might buy a new one, I don't know, or a secondhand one, I guess, I don't know. But I did find one of the center valve cover bolts was like sitting like right here in the core support. So as I'm learning, the valve cover is directly, well, not directly, but attached to the intake manifold in a way that would allow for lean codes, running rich or running lean, misfires, etc. if you have a leaking valve cover gasket. So the fact that there's oil staining on the exhaust manifold heat shields, probably not great. So kind of just trying to figure out and assess problems and figure out, kind of just taking it step by step. Kind of sketchy where I found the car. So the fact that it had some like banged up lock cylinders and stuff, I was like, maybe I should probably like go through, like, let's make sure I can get it titled in my name. So I got a title in my name. Super cool. They gave me a temp tag. I've got probably like 3 weeks left on the temp tag. So I got a short time frame that I got to get some stuff done. Because the next step would be getting plates. Once I get plates, in Colorado, we have to do emissions every 2 years. So I need to get through emissions at least once. And then I give myself 2 years on the street of plates before I'd have to do emissions again, which I may or may not do. Kind of depends on where the journey goes with the car. Have definitely dived into dove into. I don't know what to say there. I've began racing with some friends that have several BMWs, some E30s, E46 M3, and then some newer stuff, some crazy stuff. So definitely opportunity for me to take the car to the track. It's super fun. What I like about this car is if you wring its neck, it's 200 horsepower, 220 horsepower, whatever, on a good day. So you ring this car's neck, it's 5-speed, might see like 120 miles an hour. You're still gonna go to jail if you're doing 120 on public roads, not in Mexico. So it's plenty not to get me in trouble, but it's just fun. And coming from a Nissan background, it's really cool to take the stuff that I know, and mechanic background, and just be able to apply it where it fits, but then also be able to understand and see how a completely different, a German manufacturer does certain things as far as like suspension and the way that emissions controls are done, and just the way stuff fits together and how it works. It's cool. It's fun to dive into something new. But I really like the car, really like the chassis. It feels great driving. And that's on like shitty coilover on the front, questionable coils on the rear, like really bad bearing or bushings, and everything's just in bad shape. So I've got full arms, front arms, tie rods, several other bushings and pieces. Got the team that I race with, or that I hang out with, works with Garagistic. So I picked up one of their full chassis support brackets. Welding is something I'm capable of doing, so pretty excited to get to a point where I can put this car up on a lift and pull the subframe out. I've got SPC adjustable camber arms for the rear, which you can't get the bolt, the inner bolt, like in the subframe, you can't get the bolt out without juggling the differential out. So kind of just trying to be smart and efficient with time and projects, and kind of lay things out. Kind of historically with cars projects in the past, I pretty much do a really good job of tearing everything apart and then like selling some parts, and then just kind of like running out of motivation. So with this car, I kind of really want to keep it in a format that will, okay, stage one, stage two, this project. Okay, so with this project, we're going to do differential bushings, the plates for the body. So the E46 are notorious for where the subframe mounts, the body tears. There's some spots in the front too, cradle, engine mounts. But just kind of enjoying it. Like I said, I fix one thing and then I find something else. So like when I was doing all the vacuum stuff, something was like, check the line that goes back to the muffler flap. So I was like, oh, huh. So I go look, and it's got, a little flappy valve in one of the two exhaust tips. So when sometimes it closes it so it's more quiet or better power or whatever. Well, on this car, it's already been, the vacuum line, you can pull it off, put a golf tee in it, and then they just stay open. Well, they're supposed to stay open. On this car, the flap is stuck closed. So probably will do an exhaust, mostly just to because I can. But I need to kind of decide what I'm going to do, because with the tune, it's not looking at the rear 2 sensors, so I can do something like a E36 manifolds or catless headers. Kind of have to decide what to do there. I'm not 100% committed to the Spec E46, but I think it's a really good guideline, and they're reliable, fun cars. So, you know, their spec is a E36 manifolds and then spec exhaust. So I can buy all that stuff. I can do all that. Which, if I'm already doing exhaust anyways, I can, like I said, I can kind of keep myself in check by using the rules for Spec E46. And then, you know, if the dozen or so cars that are in the state that are race cars start kind of changing their, you know, their setups, and we all get on the same page, we could probably do some Spec E46 racing in Colorado in the next year or two, which would be pretty cool. You know, and it's not too much of a departure from where I want to go with this car anyways. So just wanted to do a bit of a like recording of my thoughts and whatnot at this point, which is it's a new car, it's cool. Probably gonna street drive it for a while, turn it into a real race car, cage, gutted, all the stuff. I've bounced around quite a bit as far as like what I was gonna do with it, but I think that I'm pretty much just gonna kind of let it guide me on where we go. See what happens. Should be fun, but I was just installing. I was finishing up Motorsports Hardware stud conversion kit. Being a Nissan guy, lug bolts are the dumbest thing in the world. I don't understand why any company would use them. Like, they're just dangerous. Like, what? Like, when you take the wheel off, like, I don't know, they're stupid. Super happy to throw some studs and nuts on. Motorsports Hardware stuff is great, like, awesome. But just gonna kind of like show you something, because it's kind of cool. So. It's not actually going to be this low, but that's some Adelhan RH02s, I think is what these are. They're like BBS LM reps. I just kind of like the old vibe, like, you know, not old, but it seems correct. It's an 01, so like, kind of thought to myself about checking to see where, like, what was hot in like 2003, 2004 with these cars. But like, it's pretty good. 235, 40, 18 by 8.5. They're like plus 35s, plus 30s. But trucks are pretty good. It's like, I think it rubs a little bit, like right here. Some body damage on this car. I don't know. I may fix it, I may not. But did some other little bitties. Taillights were all stupid, so threw some LEDs on there. Trying to think. I don't know. That's pretty much it. I'll give some updates as we go. But for right now, it's sitting on jack stands. So, a couple inches of snow outside. Brand new Firestone Firehawks. I'm driving one of the trucks.